The 49ers Report is brought to you by MANSCAPED, the official men's grooming product sponsor of the San Francisco 49ers. So go to manscaped.com/49ers, enter the promo code 49ers, and you get 20% off plus free shipping on the best men's grooming products. Welcome into the 49ers Report. I am Chase Sr., and the 2021 NFL Draft has officially wrapped up. So it's time for me to hand out my grades for how the 49ers did in the 2021 NFL Draft. But first, let's take a look at the players that they are bringing into San Francisco. Round 1, pick 3, Trey Lance. They get their future quarterback. In round 2, an offensive guard to protect Trey Lance and Aaron Banks out of Notre Dame. Round 3, they go running back with Trey Sermon out of Ohio State. Round 3, later in that round after Trey Sermon, a cornerback, AMBRY Thomas out of Michigan. And then we continue on with Jalen Moore, offensive tackle out of Western Michigan. Diamador Lenore, as the 49ers address the secondary, really rangy, fast corner out of Oregon, making his way to the 49ers as well. Talanoa Hufanga, safety out of USC. 49ers pick him up in round 5, 180 overall, as well as Elijah Mitchell, running back out of Louisiana, the speedster entering a very crowded 49ers backfield. First, here's my overall grade for how the 49ers did in the draft. I am giving them an A. Why is that? Because anytime you get your future franchise quarterback, I got to hand out a great grade, and for me, that is an A. And the 49ers addressed every major area of need on the roster while also adding young, affordable talent and depth to support Trey Lance whenever he does become the starting quarterback under Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch. So I'm giving the 49ers an A. The faithful, what are you giving San Francisco? Get into the comments and let me know. Grade the 49ers draft A, B, C, D, or F. Let's start off in the first round as the 49ers made that splash at pick number 3 by drafting Trey Lance. A. I know I'm new to the 49ers Report, but I told you I am not giving in to the Mac Jones hype. I had them picking Justin Fields. I changed that in my latest mock draft to Trey Lance. I just thought they were way too smart to trade up to number 3, give up 3 future first-round picks to pick a player in Mac Jones who had a clear ceiling. Trey Lance, on the other hand, he has so much potential, and I think he could end up being a generational quarterback with a quarterback guru as his head coach in Kyle Shanahan. So for me, I'm giving the pick of Trey Lance an A. There is so much upside with this quarterback prospect, and I know there are some concerns because he's raw, and he only attempted a little more than 300 passing attempts at North Dakota State. But when I scout Trey Lance, I love what he brings to the table and the explosive qualities that he has as an athlete. And I like how the 49ers went about this process. They made the trade up to number 3 early on in the process so that they could go to the pro days for Mac Jones, as well as Justin Fields and Trey Lance, to figure out which quarterback was perfect for their system. And in doing so, they're able to get a quarterback who's going to be the face of the franchise for what I believe is going to be the next decade. And as I continue to say, Trey Lance, with his size, his speed, arm strength, and athleticism, has unlimited upside, especially in Kyle Shanahan's scheme. And finally, Kyle Shanahan, for the first time as a head coach, not an offensive coordinator, as a head coach, has an opportunity to develop his guy who he traded up for. And at the end of the day, this is why they picked Trey Lance. He wowed them with his intangibles, his athletic traits, as well as his character and his leadership. And it's easy to see why, because in 2019 at North Dakota State, he only played 1 game in 2020 because of COVID. He was awesome. 28 touchdowns to 0 picks. He added a bunch of more touchdowns on the ground as well, completed around 67% of his passes. Now, the mechanics might need some work, and they'll work with Trey Lance on that. But the package is certainly there for this guy to be a superstar. Here's the big question, though, heading into the 2021 season. Who is going to be the starting quarterback for this team? Is it going to be Jimmy Garoppolo, who was not traded throughout the NFL draft? If you think so, type JG. If it's Trey Lance, type TL. Now, Trey Lance, he drops back and he throws such a pretty deep ball. If you want pretty balls, well, here's the answer for you. Go to manscaped.com/49ers, enter the promo code 49ers, and you get 20% off plus free shipping on the best male grooming products, especially the Lawnmower 3.0. That's how you clean your balls up and make them clean like the deep ball from Trey Lance. The entire package here, the perfect package from Manscaped, is awesome. And also, not only is Manscaped the sponsor of the 49ers Report, it's the official men's grooming product sponsor of the San Francisco 49ers. Let's take a look at Aaron Banks, who was selected by the 49ers in the second round, pick number 48. So they traded back from 43 in a trade with the Las Vegas Raiders. And at first, I was a little confused by this pick because I just don't think he's a perfect scheme fit. But as I sat back and thought about Aaron Banks being the pick here, it makes me think that Kyle Shanahan is not going to completely overhaul and change his offensive scheme, but he's going to tinker with it just a little bit. And this is why. Trey Lance gives Kyle Shanahan a dimension at the quarterback position that he's never had at his disposal because of his ability to both run it and pass it. So I think the 49ers are going to go with a more physical offensive approach, and Aaron Banks fits that profile. So I don't think it's the perfect scheme fit, which is why I'm going to give Aaron Banks a C grade. But there's no doubt that at 340 pounds, this guy is physical. He is a mauler. He's not a guard that's going to swing out, get out in space, and clear a bunch of space in the running game and wow you from an athletic standpoint. But he is really physical, and in the ground game, if he's able to just kind of stay put in Kyle Shanahan's zone scheme, he's going to be able to open up a lot of holes offensively for this running game. And we saw that the 49ers added a bunch of running backs to their new running back room, which we'll get to here in a little bit, but also provide some future protection for Trey Lance. Also, the pick of Aaron Banks, say what you want about it. If you're high on it, if you're not, I just thought there were better offensive linemen still on the board when the 49ers made this pick at 48. I would have gone with a guy like Creed Humphrey, who I'm really high on out of Oklahoma. I would have selected Quinn Miners or Josh Myers. Quinn Miners really vaulted up draft boards out of Wisconsin, Whitewater. I thought Humphrey, Miners, and Myers were better players, and not only can they play center, they can also play guard. So while you have Alex Mack for this season, you could have picked one of these guys to groom them to be the future replacement for Alex Mack, which is a more important position at center than guard is. So that's my opinion on that one. Let's move ahead to Trey Sermon now. A lot of people were surprised that they went with a running back in round 3. I really, really like the pick, and he enters a very crowded 49ers backfield, but I think it's fine because I watched the tape of this guy from 2020. He was immensely better than he was in 2019. He originally committed to Oklahoma, transferred to Ohio State, was solid in 2019, has dealt with some injury issues throughout his career. But there was a clear jump in his game from 2019 to 2020, and it really came down to the pull-away speed. That tells me this guy worked out really, really hard to improve his athleticism and his burst, which bodes well as he makes the transition to the NFL game. And in a short sample size, because of the COVID-shortened season in the Big Ten, he was fabulous last year. 116 carries, 870 yards, 4 touchdowns, long of 65. The average yards per carry up there with some of the best running backs in the entire country, and he had some massive, massive performances in huge clutch situations for Ohio State last year in some really big games. So I love the selection of Trey Sermon in the 3rd round. I think you get really good value here. He is like 23 years old, but that doesn't worry me at all because at that age, you're going to maximize him on his rookie contract. And over time, he's developed his game in a way where he is more of a pass-catching threat out of the backfield as well. We move ahead, and the 49ers started to address the secondary, and they started doing so by drafting Ambry Thomas. Another reason why I didn't like the Aaron Banks trade, I would have stayed put at 43 to probably draft a guy like Asante Samuel Jr. Instead, they go with Ambry Thomas out of Michigan later on in the draft. Ambry Thomas has some potential. He can play inside, outside. He's got some special teams ability as well. A couple years ago with Michigan, he had a highlight reel kick return for a touchdown. According to Tom Downey, he had a 4th-round grade on Ambry Thomas, which was kind of where he fell in the 2021 NFL draft. He was his number 107th overall player. He went 102. So I like the pick, maybe a little bit of a reach, but certainly fills a position of need for San Francisco. So let's pull this up, producer Jeremy, of why I like the pick and some thoughts that I have on it. Definitely fills a need at the cornerback spot. I mentioned that multiple times on the 49ers report in the weeks and months leading up to the draft. Has quick feet. He's also pretty fast. I think you have to value track down speed for cornerback prospects. He has that because he's a 4-4 guy. I mentioned that ability to play special teams as well. If there is a concern for Ambry Thomas, he's a little bit lean, but I think over time he's going to be able to add to that body a little bit. 49ers went back to the offensive line and drafted Jalen Moore. I'm going to give this selection a B. Somewhat of an under-talked-about offensive line prospect, but you put him in this scheme, you put him with Aaron Banks, and the 49ers slowly but surely are rebuilding the offensive line. Now, you bring back guys like Alex Mack and Trent Williams. You bring back Mike McGlinchey. Those are all veteran players. I thought the 49ers along the O-line needed an influx of youthful energy. So you get that with Aaron Banks, and you get that with Jalen Moore. And when you look at his measurables like Banks, he's also a pretty big dude. Not as big as Aaron Banks, 6'4", 311 pounds, but a pretty solid athlete and a guy who is just really sturdy out of Western Michigan. The speed for his size, 5'2", 540, pretty solid. Another reason why I like it, he, unlike Aaron Banks, I think is a better scheme fit. I think you get him at good value here because I had a 3rd, 4th-round grade on him. And also, Jalen Moore, he's going to be able to protect Trey Lance here in the future. So a good scheme fit, good value for the 49ers, and also you're giving Trey Lance, whenever he does get under center to be the starting quarterback for this team, some future protection. So I want to pose this question for the people out there, for my 49ers homies. Are you a fan of how the 49ers are building their offensive line? Type Y for yes or type N for no. 49ers address the secondary with Deommodore Lenoir, one of the best names of all the prospects in the 2021 NFL draft class. I'm giving this grade a B. This guy has 4'4", 40 speed. You watch him, he plays long, and again, it's a position of need here. And they address the secondary in free agency with veteran options. But like they did it along the offensive line, they do the same with the secondary in the draft with Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch. They bring in young players who they can start to develop, but they don't need to play right away. Deommodore Lenoir, 5'10", 199 pounds. That's solid size for a cornerback. Tom Downey had a 6th-round grade on him. He goes in round 5, and the measurables are pretty solid. I talk about that 4'4" speed. That's what Deommodore Lenoir is bringing to the table, and in those Oregon unis, definitely looked a little faster, but 4'4" speed definitely backs that up. 49ers went back to the secondary, this time taking a safety. Talanoa Hufanga. Okay, I hope I got that pronunciation right. If not, we're going to work on it over time. Pretty sure I got it there, though. I'm giving him a B grade. I watched him, and he can just make plays. There was one play where he picked off a pass, hurdled an offensive player, and took it to the crib. That type of big play ability is why guys get drafted, because scouts see that and they say, oh my gosh, he can be a player. And Hufanga can be a player. But like the other offensive line players who the 49ers brought in, as well as these guys on the secondary, he's not going to have to play right away. So there's not going to be a bunch of pressure on these guys because this is a win now roster. And also, I think he's going to be able to play special teams as well. One more pick to get to here as we grade out this 49ers draft. Elijah Mitchell. One of my favorite picks, maybe my favorite pick behind Trey Lance because of where they got him late in the draft in the 6th round, also because of what he brings to the table. I am giving the selection of Elijah Mitchell an A grade. This guy can be an electrifying playmaker, and when he spoke with 49ers media after he was selected, round 6, 194 overall, he compared his game to Alvin Kamara. And the versatility there is something I really, really like. Here's my big question, though, with this 49ers running back depth chart and where Elijah Mitchell factors into the conversation, but also where Trey Sermon factors into the conversation. You have Raheem Mostert. You have Jeff Wilson. You brought in Wayne Gallman like a week and a half ago, and now you have Trey Sermon and Elijah Mitchell. Very, very interesting to see what roster decisions the 49ers are going to make as training camp progresses, because they're probably not going to go with 5 running backs. I threw Kyle Juszczyk on the depth chart here. Obviously, he plays fullback. I'm not a complete clown. I know that, but I put him here because I wanted to mention his name, because to have Juice blocking for these cats, oh my gosh, this 49ers running game can be potent. And when Trey Lance plays quarterback, his dimension of running the football with those running backs and Juice, this could be a very, very scary 49ers offense. This is why I like Elijah Mitchell. Very, very fast. Also has some pretty solid speed. 4.3 40 guy, compares himself to Alvin Kamara, one of the best do-it-all running backs across the league. And as I mentioned, this is a very crowded running back room. It's going to be very intriguing to follow how that plays out in training camp. So what do you think about how the 49ers fared in the draft? Scale it for me from 1 to 100. Look, when they traded up and got Trey Lance, the guy that I wanted if it wasn't Justin Fields, automatically had to give San Francisco an A grade because I have full trust in Kyle Shanahan. He's going to make it work with Trey Lance, and as long as they hit on that pick, which kind of will determine Kyle Shanahan's future and his legacy as the head coach, everything else will fall in place.